When people cross boundaries and you don't do anything, that is the exact amount of respect that you actually lose. Because it's like an algorithm, effectively. It's like a computer. When people say something to anybody, they run a calculation in their mind of how you're going to receive it. And so if they run that calculation and they say, look, last time we did this, we have evidence that he's not going to do anything. There's no negative consequences for being rude, for interrupting, for whatever you aren't interested in people doing. If you let it happen, that gives the other person evidence that if they try that, it's going to end perfectly for them. It's not going to end badly at all. There's going to be no negative consequences, and they're going to get away with it. And so that right there shows that the amount of respect that you lose is equal to the exact thing that you let people get away with. But the problem is, that's only true for the first one. The reality is a lot worse. What it looks more like to me is that after the first one, things start to increase exponentially. After you let someone get away with one thing without actually letting them know that you didn't want them to do that, it actually increases exponentially. So the next time they do something, it'll be bigger than what they did the last time. And the next time might even be bigger. Until, before you know it, they think that they can treat you any kind of way. This is what I've observed, this is what I have seen in my life. People cannot be trusted to decide for themselves that a certain way of being isn't right for you. You have to tell them that. You have to tell them, hey, I don't like it when you do things like that. Hey, we can't hang out so much if you do this, if you continue doing this. And eventually, if things continue, you do have to let people know that you just can't keep spending time with them. But it's one of those things where we don't think of it as being as simple as it is. And a lot of the time, what makes it even worse is that the reason we often let people cross our boundaries is because we think we're being nice. Well, there's two reasons. One, we think we're being nice, and two, sometimes it's just because we don't like conflict. We want to avoid conflict. We don't want to make a scene or seem like we're being overly serious, overly sensitive about things. And so letting it slide can feel like the easier option in the moment. But as I said, that's a trap because it actually gives someone the green light to do something again. And then the next time they do it, it might even be a worse situation where making a bigger fuss over it might actually be necessary. Most of us don't like making fusses. I'm definitely not the type of person who likes making a fuss about things, but time and time again, I've seen that if I let something slide in a small situation, something bigger always follows, always. It's like clockwork. People always have more in store for you when you let them get away with things that they shouldn't have been allowed to get away with. I wish it wasn't like this. It'd be much easier if things weren't like this. But it's the world that we live in. People look at what they can do and they do it. They mostly just operate in their own best interests. It's human nature to do so. I'm not saying people are good or bad for doing that. It's just in our own nature to mostly do these calculations of how people are going to act for the sake of how we're going to be received, for the sake of ourselves. Our own self-preservation is unusual, which is why people consider it a skill to be empathetic and all of that, to do those calculations for other people and say, look, this person might actually not appreciate me treating them this way. This person might not appreciate me interrupting them or being rude in this way, or they might interpret this thing that I don't see as rude. This is an unusual skill to have. This is something that people get paid to have. People who are, coaches, therapists, anything that involves managing the emotions of other people, even just leadership in general, managers, those kinds of people. These are people who get paid for having the skill of being able to know that they're crossing someone's boundary, or that this person might feel like they're having their boundary crossed by this other person in their team, and this might cause the team to have some friction with each other. There's people who are paid to know this. And so we shouldn't be too harsh on ourselves when we have trouble learning it ourselves, because it's going to be a process. People get trained for this professionally. But I think for ourselves, we can just realize that it's actually simpler than we think. The difficulty comes in actually taking action on it, actually enforcing it, because let's be real, whether you understand this or not, the moments where you actually have to speak up are still going to be hard if you're an introvert, if you're like me who doesn't usually like causing a fuss around people. I like to have a good time, believe it or not. Like, I'm not this type of person who likes to get into conflict with people for the sake of conflict. But I've learned from growing up that sometimes it's the case that you have to bring something up and risk getting into a conflict as much as you don't want to. And the best reframe that I found for this is that when we're holding back, when we're hesitating to speak up because we feel like we're going to start a scene and make things worse for people who are having a good time and they're not having a good time because we've ruined the mood by speaking up about something that we didn't like, just realize that it's not you who ruined the mood, it's the person who did the thing that you have to speak up about. You're just doing the normal expected reaction, which is actually speaking up. It would be you doing a favor for them if you don't speak up. You'd literally be doing a favor. Taking one for the team, giving it to them. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to be infinitely giving. You don't have to decide, oh, this person did something to me, I'm going to preserve their nice reputation by not mentioning this. You don't have to do that. You can do that, and that's a choice that you have the right to make. But you definitely don't have to. You're not obligated. And so many of us feel like we're obligated because we feel like we're supposed to be the bigger person, as people say. But the bigger person is the one who can actually say something and be okay if things go a little bit wrong, if things go into a conflict, if the other person doesn't accept that they were wrong. That's what I call the bigger person. I don't think you're the bigger person for pretending that it didn't happen. That seems weak to me. That seems like the type of person who is afraid of what's going to happen if they speak up and just be real with people. I don't know anyone who sees that as strong. I don't see anyone who sees that as the best type of person that they can be. All of us have the capacity to be better than that. I really believe that. So I think that's what we should be looking for. Yeah, it can be a shame when it can put a damper on the social situation if we have to speak up and things get a little bit awkward, things get a little bit tense. But that's life. That's how things go sometimes. We're human beings, we socialize. Some people get it wrong, some people get it right. Sometimes things go smoothly, sometimes things go awkwardly. Sometimes things get tense. It's all part of the mixture of human experience. And I don't think we should be running away from certain parts, because what I found is when we run away from certain parts, it ends up with, just like a recipe, when you miss out certain parts that were actually crucial to the whole thing that you were baking or cooking, it goes wrong in ways that you never expected. You're like, oh, that's why that ingredient is in there. Because if you don't add it, it turns like this. Who would have thought? So that's my message. Just when people cross boundaries, there is a predictable sequence that happens after that, and we need to be aware of that and have the courage to play our role in that, which is actually most of the time speaking up.